Most people think landscaping is about buying better plants, but the truth is, the most exciting gardens aren't built with plants first. They're built with self-reflection, planning, and careful analysis. Once you start thinking about your yard this way, something interesting happens. Instead of seeing your garden as something to work on someday in the future, it becomes a place that you actually want to spend time in every day and live in. One way to get excited about a garden is to have dedicated spaces that allow you to do things you like. A thoughtfully designed landscape might incorporate all kinds of activities. One could feature a 75-foot lap pool for swimming. Next to the pool, an outdoor eating area. At the end of the pool, a children's play area. And adjacent to that, a lawn area for dogs and kids to play in. Even a rowing machine can have its own special outside area, just outside a guest bedroom. A secluded corner could become an onsen, complete with a bamboo screen fence to set the tone, Japanese plants, and an actual soaking tub. If you want your landscape to be more useful and more exciting, think of the things you can do outside. They don't need to be super expensive, like a pool. You can enjoy a drink outside, but for that, you should make that area level. The key is to think of all the things you want to do in your home, feel free to do them, and then incorporate that into the landscape.
Even if you design amazing spaces in your garden, there's something else that can completely ruin it, and most people don't realize it until they've already planned everything. That factor is exposure. A courtyard with an eastern exposure is a usable space, perfect for morning coffee in the soft sun. A unique idea is to have seating areas of different types in all the different exposures around the house. A northern courtyard, an eastern courtyard, a western courtyard, and a southern courtyard. Rather than having a standard front yard that you just walk through to the front door, this creates the ability to use the entire periphery of the house for seating, enjoyment, and entertaining. By having patios and courtyards on almost every exposure, you have the opportunity to enjoy different spaces at different times. Exposure should always be kept in mind because that's part of what makes a space useful. For instance, if you have a problem with strong eastern light coming through a master bedroom, planting a tall specimen like a crepe myrtle in the corner can do the job at the right time of year. For western sun, you want a low-hanging, broad-spreading tree. For southern sun, you need a tall tree because that sun is high in the sky. Once you have the right spaces and sun exposure, there's one thing that can make a garden feel alive instead of empty, and most gardens only get it right for a fraction of the year. This is year-round color. It can be achieved with plants like the St. Elmo's Fire Ruellia, which is colorful almost always, unless you have really cold weather. The Arbutus marina has fantastic trunk color. Oranges and citrus of all kinds are a great way to add dependable color, with fruits that ripen from November through February. Starting in the spring, lots of things are blooming. Then as we get into summer, you have things like crepe myrtles and lots of trees and shrubs blooming. Then as we get into fall, you've got fall color from leaves, like the Keith Davy Chinese pistache. And as you go into winter, it's a little more difficult to have color, but one way is on the trunks of trees, something like a Sangokaku Japanese maple, which has a spectacular trunk. Of course, to supplement perennials, you can do so with annuals, planting them throughout the 4 seasons to have blooms all year. The most important thing for plants that thrive and give beautiful blossoms year after year is the health of your soil.
But color isn't the only thing that makes a space feel alive and beautiful. There are other things you can do to enhance your space even more. When you add wildlife, birds, and insects, the garden literally starts moving and buzzing with activity. The fundamental part of this that is overlooked is having no chemicals in the garden. And in order to have no chemicals, you start with healthy soil, because healthy soil full of microbiology can make it so you don't need them. In addition to that, native plants, even regional ones, are really helpful because of their flowers and because they're well suited to attracting beneficial activity. It's important to consider all the natives that do really well in your area, as it's possible to plant natives that do poorly if they are not suited for the microclimate. Another way that's really attractive to wildlife and birds is moving water. A small self-made fountain can be tremendously effective at attracting birds and wildlife of all kinds. Even with all this beauty outside, there is one design trick that can make your garden feel like it's bigger and more connected to your home. Extending your house out into the landscape. There are lots of ways you can do that. You can use giant French doors to blur the line between inside and out. You can expand view corridors out into the garden by looking at every window. If you have tight spaces on side yards, you can grow vines on the walls so that you're looking at greenery all the time. By looking at every entrance and exit, you can see how to incorporate some usable space. The ultimate example is where the inside of the house expands right out into the landscape, so that the outdoor environment becomes an intimate part of the inside. This last idea doesn't just make your garden look better, it actually gives you something back every single season. This is the inclusion of edible plants. Imagine navel oranges that start ripening in November, allowing you to pick fresh fruit every day. In the back, you might have some Bear's limes. There are a lot of ways of adding edible food into your landscape. Dwarf citrus is one of the most obvious, but also vegetables and herbs of all kinds. Rosemary makes a good ground cover. Creeping thyme does as well. You can have a kitchen garden right outside your kitchen. It's an exciting possibility if you go the edible garden way. Citrus trees are beautiful specimens anyway. Their blooms are aromatic, and they're evergreen year-round. But the fact that you can pick delicious fruits from them is just a bonus.